It makes no sense. That's what ESPN NFL insider Adam Schefter had to say about the idea of the San Francisco 49ers trading away Brandon Aiyuk, considering they're in the Super Bowl window right now, and an Aiyuk trade would make them worse. We're going to talk about that. Also, is the Niners' asking price for Aiyuk clear after a report from Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk? First, we are 1 day away from Niners training camp as veterans will report to Santa Clara tomorrow. Deebo Samuel going to be rocking the number 1 during the 2024 season, which is why this photo is here to my right. So if all of this gets you excited for the return of Niners football, I want you to hit that thumbs up icon, like the video, and let's start talking some Niners right now. Welcome into the San Francisco 49ers Report by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. Hope all of you are having a great Monday and you're coming off a phenomenal weekend. Adam Schefter, ESPN NFL insider, is like many of us. He went on the Pat McAfee show today and said it makes no sense for the Niners to trade away Brandon Aiyuk right now, considering the Niners are living in the Super Bowl window. The 49ers were a couple of plays from a Super Bowl win, which would have given this organization their 5th Lombardi trophy. San Francisco should have won, should have beaten the Kansas City Chiefs if it were not for dumb mistakes and self-inflicted wounds, and then we'd be having a different conversation right now, and the outlook for this team would be much different. The 49ers still have a loaded roster, maybe the most talented roster in the entire National Football League. You look at some sports books across America, and the Niners are Super Bowl favorites, if not the favorites to win the NFC and to make it to New Orleans for the Super Bowl in February. And trading away Brandon Aiyuk makes you a worse football team. So why would the Niners even entertain that when they have cap space right now and there are ways to massage the cap next year? The 49ers, ladies and gentlemen, right now are true Super Bowl contenders, an elite team with a great coaching staff, a great roster, and if they were to deal away Brandon Aiyuk, what does it do? It hurts your Super Bowl chances. And what is draft compensation going to give you right now? How does that assist you right now? San Francisco, looking ahead to the 2025 draft, is in a good position. They already have 5 picks in the first 4 rounds, and as we know, they have mastered the compensatory pick formula. And for those of you saying, Chase, they can't pay Aiyuk right now because the Brock Purdy extension is coming, that is true. But there are ways to finagle the cap and to pull off salary cap gymnastics. An example? Arrival of the Niners and the Philadelphia Eagles. Jalen Hurts is making $51 million per year, average annual value on the contract extension that he was paid last offseason. But he is not going to count for more than $32 million on the cap until 2027. For those of you who don't know, we're about to embark on the 2024 season. What the Niners could do next year, Brock Purdy plays on the final year of his rookie deal. He's been the best bargain in the NFL the last year and a half. You could also backload his contract so that that extension doesn't include a huge cap hit until many years down the road, and then you visit that when the time comes. Aiyuk is a very special player. Why would you get rid of a special homegrown talent who has a great rapport with your young franchise quarterback, and you have overseen his development to a point where he's become an all-pro? You can afford him now. You can afford him in the future. The NFL salary cap is going to continue to rise. The last 4 off seasons, you have paid some of the players that you have drafted and developed. Why should that change with Brandon Aiyuk, who each of the 4 years he's been in the NFL, his numbers have gotten better and better, and there's no saying that he's going to slow down. As for what Adam Schefter had to say on the Pat McAfee show, makes some very valid points, and I'll react to all of these. The 49ers had an issue once with kicker Robbie Gould, who wanted a new deal, asked to be traded. He got that new deal, and the same thing with Deebo Samuel when he requested a trade. If you're the Niners, why would you trade Aiyuk or Deebo for draft compensation in 2025 when you're trying to win now? Schefty, my man, one of us. The real ones know. And the Niners right now have $31.4 million in cap space. Next year, a little bit more concerning. They're nearly $39 million over the cap. but you can carry that cap space over. You can free up some cap space by giving players guaranteed money, contract extensions, trading away players, cutting players. What if John Lynch approached Brandon Aiyuk and said, that fifth-year option, $14.1 million, throw that in the toilet. Let's give you a one-year contract worth $25 to $28 million. San Francisco still has a lot of salary cap space this year. And then next offseason, they can once again try to revisit a long-term deal once their financial situation becomes a little bit clear. More from Adam Schefter on the Aiyuk situation. You could trade Deebo after this year if you want, and you'd have the services of him this year. Aiyuk, you could put the franchise tag on him next offseason. My guess is Aiyuk doesn't show up to training camp. He tries to force the issue, and we'll see if the two sides can work out a deal. Adam Schefter also making this point that I've talked about here on the show, that interestingly enough, and I reported on this back in March from the NFL Scouting Combine, Aiyuk and John Lynch, they share an agent. It is Ryan Williams, who John Lynch is best friends with. Ryan Williams works for Athletes First. They have probably had good communication and consistent communication all throughout this offseason. This is Ryan Williams here to my right. He was on hand for John Lynch's Hall of Fame ceremony, and they remain very, very good friends. I imagine that will help them try to get a deal done. Ryan Williams, maybe not the biggest fan of me. I'm not sure why. He's taken to social media to quote tweet my commentaries about an Aiyuk trade, saying this is fake news. Yet his client comes out and demands a trade, so it's not fake news after all. So what do you think? Will the Niners and Aiyuk get a deal done? Let me know down in the comments section. Type Y for yes or N for no. We always want to hear from the faithful. Now, a lot more to get to here on today's show. But first, we want to welcome back a tremendous sponsor here on the San Francisco 49ers Report, and that is Game Time. If you're looking for last-minute tickets at the lowest price guaranteed, Game Time is the only ticketing app that you should download. It is an authorized ticket marketplace for Major League Baseball, now that we're living here in the middle of the summer, and the National Football League, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down closer to when it gets to first pitch or kickoff, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Now, you can save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, but also concerts, comedy shows, theatrical events, and more. There are flash deals where you can save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or the event. There are also zone deals. You can save even more when you choose a section and let Game Time choose the seats. What I also love about the Game Time app, you can seat the vantage point from your seats so that you know what you'll be seeing when you get to the venue. So download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code CHATSPORTS, and when you use the code CHATSPORTS, you get $20 off. Here, you see it right here. Redeem that code, and you're able to save some money on your tickets. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guarantee. Story number 2 here on today's San Francisco 49ers Report as we continue to roll forward on this Monday. We now know what the Niners' asking price is for Brandon Aiyuk. And as we've theorized, it's a high asking price. According to Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk, the New England Patriots, in the lead-up to the 2024 draft, offered the 34th overall pick for Aiyuk. That originally was the 34th pick. New England traded out of that selection. But either way, that was a high second-round selection for Aiyuk, and the Niners turned that down, according to Mike Florio. He also added within his report over the weekend that there were 5 teams across the National Football League, among 32 teams in the NFL, who were willing to pay Aiyuk the contract extension that he is seeking. Here's the word from the man himself and Mike Florio. 49ers receiver Brandon Aiyuk recently asked for a trade. Before the draft, trade talks nevertheless happened. Negotiations occurred not because Aiyuk wanted out, but because the 49ers invited his representatives to explore whether another team would pay Aiyuk what he wanted on a long-term deal. At the time, the magic number was in the neighborhood of $28 million per year. That quite possibly has changed given the market-shifting deal given by the Vikings to receiver Justin Jefferson. Regardless, there were 5 teams, we're told, who were ready to pay Aiyuk what he wanted before the draft. If they could also reach acceptable trade terms with the 49ers, he would have been traded. So a couple of takeaways there. The Niners gave Ryan Williams and Aiyuk an opportunity and the leeway, the runway, to reach out to teams to see if they would give Brandon Aiyuk a new contract extension. There were 5 teams, according to Florio, that were willing to pay you up for Aiyuk services. The $28 million per year number is very interesting. And it doesn't surprise me that teams would be willing to pay that for Aiyuk, who last year was a top 10 wide receiver, and wide receivers are needed in today's NFL. Some teams are bereft of them, and their offenses really struggle because of that. The other part that's interesting is the Niners' demand and the asking price back for Aiyuk. They found out other teams willing to pay Aiyuk $28 million per year. The Niners had to have had an idea. We could probably afford something within that range. Otherwise, they may have moved on a deal. More from Mike Florio here. That part didn't happen. It's unclear what the Niners wanted at the time. They rejected an offer of a second-round pick from the Patriots. Other interested teams were and potentially still are the Steelers and the Commanders. Now, as I noted, that draft pick from New England, 34th overall. That's pretty good value, but Aiyuk, a second-team All-Pro last year, he was drafted 25th overall back in 2020. I know that the acquiring team would have to pay Aiyuk that extension, which could drive down the price tag from their vantage point, but the Niners made the right decision in not trading him away. My starting point is a first-round pick for Aiyuk. And now that he's demanded this trade, if Aiyuk wants to get dealt, fine. Go try to get traded. But unless a team is willing to give up a first-rounder and pay you, we're not moving off of you. Because 34th overall is not good enough value. It wasn't then. And a draft pick now doesn't really help us. Lastly, from Florio, a post-draft trade becomes problematic for the 49ers unless someone can offer a current player who will help the Niners win in 2024. If the best offer includes 2025 draft picks, the 49ers could be tempted to take a hard line with Aiyuk, requiring him to complete the final year of his rookie deal and then possibly tagging him and trading him after the year. Much of what happens depends on how firm Aiyuk will be in his request for a trade. Will he hold out of training camp? Will he stay out deep into the regular season, showing up in time to get credit for 2024 and setting the stage for an exit in 2025? That is also a possibility that Florio mentioned of the Niners franchise tagging Aiyuk next year and then trading him away to a team that is willing to give him that extension. We just saw that this past offseason with L'Jarius Sneed and the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs weren't willing to give Sneed the deal that he wanted. The Titans were. And then there was that franchise tag, pretty much the NBA version of a sign-in trade. And for Aiyuk, he's an elite player in this league. So that's why if I'm the Niners, I have the asking price firm with what I just said, it being, but why other teams would be willing to trade for him and then pay him. I mean, last year, despite the Niners not throwing the football that much because they have a run-centric offense, he was second in yards per catch, second in yards per target, second highest graded wide receiver according to Pro Football Focus. His EPA among all wideouts was number 2, and he was 7th in receiving yards. This reeks of a player who's a top 10 wideout in this league. That's what he did in 2023. When you invest in stocks, when you join forces with a company, when you take a chance on somebody, whether it's an athlete or an employee, what are you also looking for? You want to see them on an upward trajectory. You want to see them making progress. You want to see growth because when you invest in them, you want to see that continued improvement. It's exactly what Brandon Aiyuk's done in his NFL career. It's not like you're paying him for past performances. You are paying him for what he's done, but what he can still become. Because I firmly believe that Aiyuk can be a better player in this league than what he's shown especially if he gets even more targets from the Niners, if they change their offensive philosophy at least a little bit, or another team. Because look at the progress he's been able to make. Look at the strides that we have seen Aiyuk take in his 4 seasons in the National Football League. You still don't believe me that we're talking about an elite player here? You want to tell me that he's not an elite route runner, or he doesn't have every single route to his route tree? Well, that's false, because I have the data to back that up. Reception perception with this graphic here. This is every route in the route tree. Aiyuk has had success to a wide margin in running every single route. 9, corner, out, comeback, flat, other, screen, slant, curl, dig, post. Look at all of the green here. Look at all of the success by route. And you see all the different percentages on your screen right here. And Aiyuk, I call him the Niners' number 1 true wide receiver because he is that true boundary outside X wide receiver who can win running any single route against any type of coverage, whereas Deebo Samuel, while he's one of the most dynamic weapons in all of football, he's a little bit limited with the coverage that he can be successful against and the routes that he runs. Aiyuk, route percentage, 9, post, corner, out, dig, comeback, curl, flat, slant, other, screen. He's finding success in a variety of areas. And here on the show, we've also talked about how he has success against man. He has success against zone. He has success against press. And we're talking about him being in the 95th percentile, 96th percentile in all of those categories. So if he were to get more targets, I think he'd put up even bigger production, and his asking price could be even higher. The fact that his asking price could be 28 to 30, the Niners could actually get him at a bargain rate because of how good he could be if he were to go somewhere else, getting the football in a much more pass-happy scheme. Going to be fascinating to see how this plays out, how much money Aiyuk gets, if the Niners hold firm on their asking price, and what transpires here. Because clearly the Niners value him. They don't want to trade him away, and they've gotten some pretty solid offers for Aiyuk, and they haven't moved. Make sure you give me a follow on social media. I'm on X. I'm so close to 13,000 followers. Let's get there for Brock Purdy. And on Instagram, everything is popping right now. I put out a lot of short-form content in addition to long-form content on my social media pages. Don't be a stranger. Say what's up and keep it locked here for the best Niners training camp coverage, which begins this week. Can't wait.